right, with 22 minutes going to the 8 o'clock hour, we now turn our attention to the discussions for the day here in Morning at NTV. I am Priscilla Regina Naloga, glad to be in your company. Now, this Wednesday, we get to take note of reservation schemes in the public procurement. Of course, we've been having this conversation relatedly with Chris earlier on, if you've been following us since the start of the program. And so this particular conversation is right on time. Now, dating back to the 10th of March, the year was 2017, the PPDA Board approved the guidelines on reservation schemes to promote local content, and this is in the public procurement. The guideline issued by the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority is in accordance with Section 97 of the PPDA Act and Regulation 12 of the Local Government's Regulations of 2006, with the objective of providing mechanisms of increasing the input of local labor, local goods and local services in the procurement of public sector projects, goods and services within the count. Now, since the amendment, which was in 2021, we delve into the understanding of the reservation schemes dynamics, and to discuss this, we are joined by the Executive Director from the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority, and this is Mr. Benson Turamye. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you, Priscilla.
It's a pleasure to be in your company with your busy schedule, especially in a financial year where we're tilting towards oil and gas. Good morning to you once again.
Good morning, and good morning, viewers.
Okay, all right, so let's start by asking you to provide us a background of the context in which the PPDA's mandate is, especially in concern of reservation of schemes and their role.
Thank you, Priscilla, and I'm happy to be hosted on this show this morning. I'm a regular viewer actually of NTV, and I'm glad to be here and to have this conversation with you. The PPDA as a government agency was established by an Act of Parliament in 2003, specifically to provide oversight to the public procurement and disposal of public assets in this country. This was in line with the decentralization policy and in line with strengthening the public financial management in this country. Procurement initially was hindered by a lot of backlog because of centralization. Centralization meaning that if, for example, a rural hospital wanted to buy an X-ray, they will come to Kampala to Central Tender Board, which was under Ministry of Finance. But because of these reforms, and globally really, not necessarily only in Uganda, procurement was centralized or decentralized, meaning that the procurement process, right from planning, budgeting, requisition, calling for bids, receiving bids, evaluating them, contracting, and executing contracts, was put in those executing agencies. The ministries, the local government in terms of upper local government, districts, municipalities, cities now, then parastatals, like the authorities, the commissions, including the referral hospitals as public universities. So PPD then is there to provide oversight to ensure that these processes are done fairly, competitively, and non-discriminatorily. And also they must deliver value for money. Procurement must deliver, otherwise procurement alone without results is in vain. So in this line, the PPDA Act then provided, actually it was not there before till 2021, when the PPDA Act was amended. It provided that we reserve, there must be reservation, preference and reservation schemes to benefit Ugandans. And this essentially was to ensure that our Ugandan providers or suppliers or contractors get a share of the cake, of the budget, because 60%, almost 60% of the government budget, Ugandan budget, goes through public procurement. And when we talk about public procurement, we are talking about works, we are talking about supplies, we are talking about non-consultant services and consultant services. So what are you getting as a Ugandan? So the law that was stated to by the president in 2021 as amended now said there must be provision, there must be a share for our local providers. And this share then required that we as PPDA, as an authority, we must operationalize the section of the law by issuing guidelines, which you rightly indicated. And this guideline was issued this year in March, on March 22nd, and it is effective. It was effective. So as the authority, now this provision within the guidelines must be implemented by government ministries and departments.
All right. Now, we would like to have an understanding of the categories or the sectors that the reservation schemes do actually target or point towards, and what has been the eligibility criteria for people to actually participate in some of these.
First of all, the guidelines are providing that we ring fence certain procurements to the local providers. And the local providers we are talking about, actually, maybe to make this conversation more clearer, are not only, we are not, in terms of definition, they are not only Ugandans or Ugandan born. The local providers are national providers who are 100% Ugandans or who have majority share. If you have a farm, the majority shareholders must be Ugandans. Then they have resident providers. You are an Indian, you have been living in Uganda, you have a registered company in Uganda. There are also thresholds for that category. And we have also what we call East African community. You have a farm, but you are based in South Sudan. So you are also, you shouldn't be taken as a foreigner. So there is also that category.
Okay.
But the beauty is that each category has its area of competition. So in terms of the categorization, we have what we call thresholds. We have provided thresholds for different types of procurements and works, for example. And under works, we are talking about road works. So where does a Ugandan benefit exclusively? Roadworks up to 15 billion. That is quite good money. Up to 15 billion, no any other provider should compete in this arena of 15 billion and below, if it is a road work. If it is any other work, like waterworks, buildings, irrigation schemes, dams, this must be, and the threshold here is 10 billion. If it is 10 billion and below, it's exclusively Ugandans. So Ugandans must be ready to consume this, this budget. If there are consultant services, for example, and the consultant services in works like design and supervision, there is also a lot of money. Every government project that you see under implementation, whether it's a road, a building, there is a design consultant, there is a supervising consultant, and this threshold is 5 billion. This is very good. Why did we do this? Because we have a belief that this money eventually that is earned by our fellow Ugandans will trickle down and expand and grow the economy.
Okay. It also begs the questions, between 2021 and that, what has been the performance in terms of uptake of local content?
When the Act was amended in 2021, there was this gap of now issuing the guidelines, which were issued this year. So talk about 3 years.
Yeah.
So operationalization of the 2021 provision has started, because again in 2018 there were some provisions of the guidelines, and we are talking about. I will give an example, like UNRWA. In 2022, 26 billion worth of contracts were subcontracted to Ugandans.
Okay. And
this is also a provision within our guideline that 30%, if a foreign company is contracted, they must subcontract
to a local company,
yeah, a minimum of 30% in terms of value. And these are huge contracts, and 100 billion contract. If a Ugandan company takes 30 billion, that is good. And the purpose, essentially, initially, really, even the purpose of that subcontracting is to build the skill transfer from these foreign companies to our local companies, because they will be supervising them as much as they are getting some money out of this. But the purpose is to build capacity of our local providers, so that even when we have these foreign providers not coming, like when we had this COVID-19, we are able to continue doing business using our local companies.
Okay.
So the uptake generally is positive, because we have the suppliers, we have registered suppliers on our register of providers, our national register of providers, who have the capacity to execute some of these contracts.
All right. Now, speaking of execution, 2024 guidelines are here, meaning now that the plane can leave the dock and be able to fly, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those major guidelines that are going to be able to enhance PPDA's, advocacy towards local content engagement and these schemes, and what is the expected turnaround on local content by and large as far as boosting economic growth and development is concerned?
Because we have deliberately focused the national local content, I would say local content generally. And government is one of the biggest consumers of these manufactured products. And that's why we are emphasizing, again, apart from those thresholds I talked about, that if we have a manufacturing facility in this country and we are government is consuming those products, then those products have been reserved to ensure that we facilitate, we contribute to that manufacturing industry to expand their capacity. But also the benefits that come with when they are selling, when they are selling a lot, then also they are employing our Ugandans, they are using utilities, power, water. They are also buying inputs. Actually, what we are monitoring currently is what is the local input. And these products, some of these products are clothing, uniforms and clothing, you must buy them here. If you are Army, Ministry of Defense, Uganda Police Force, Uganda prisons, the nurses, the school uniforms, they must buy them here. Even schools, secondary schools, actually schools are regulated under the PPDA. You are buying medicines and medical supplies, NMS, National Medical Stores. They are buying more than 46 medicines in the country, which are manufactured here. They can only import those which are not manufactured here. You are buying electrical and electrical cables. You are Uganda Electricity Distribution Company, and you are buying these products for your power line extension. They must be bought here. You can only get out of those products if the specifications, for example, that you are looking for are not manufactured in the country. The other products are wood products. You heard His Excellency complaining that the Minister of Education was importing just desks, school desks. Now it is there is a legal instrument. It is by law that you can't import wood products if you are a government agency. There are the motorcycles. We have also, and some people have started the assembly lines in this Simba. Simba has started an assembly line of motorcycles. We have working tractors. Uganda want to mechanize agriculture. So some of those, instead of using an oxen, which is pulling these plows, now a working tractor is faster and more can do a bigger area. So we are saying, but also more important actually, there are projects which we call turnkey projects. You are contracted to build a building like this one. You are a government agency. You must buy inputs from our local manufacturers, because and at bidding, a government entity, if say Minister of Health or Minister of Local Government is going to construct a building, they must indicate where materials in their bidding document, the source of materials, and that will be evaluated. If you are going tile, they say tiles, because we make tiles here. We manufacture cement, we manufacture iron bars. So those inputs, and you will see these factories growing here. And at times you may not understand why they are growing, because all these inputs, roofings, Uganda bat, all the inputs that will be going into construction sector, roads, buildings, will be bought locally. If you are building a dam, like a dam, you can imagine what went into Karuma Dam. Steel, how much cement alone can sustain a factory like Uganda roofing. So that is a deliberate effort to make sure that procurement contributes to the national growth of the economy.
Okay, well done on that front. But I know that in your doing so, it has come with some challenges that you've had to face and some hurdles that you've had to jump along the way in promotion of local content and its uptake through these schemes. So what are some of those, if you could share?
The challenges at times are beyond some of us, as you know. So there are national challenges at times. These contractors execute contracts, and the government actually doesn't pay in advance. Okay, there is some provision now in the law that you can pay an advance with a guarantee of 30%. But also, if you are to pay more than 30%, you must get approval from Permanent Secretary, Treasury of Finance. But the biggest challenge for our contractors really has been delayed payments. And when they delay, then the contractors
demoralized to
even abandon the sites. Did me as the regulator who is supposed to enforce execution of these contracts. Then you find you are really you have nothing to do. If genuinely this contractor abandons the site or fails to execute the obligations within the contract, I am supposed to blacklist or suspend this contractor. But now this contract says, you see, I submitted my certificate 6 months down the road, I've not been paid. And you find that even the other side of government has failed to meet their obligations. That is one. Of course, the other issue is the capacity. We are struggling with the capacity and ensuring that government agencies get those contractors who have the capacity to execute these contracts. Otherwise, someone, will present a very fantastic bid. You are saying how many engineers, 3 engineers, registered engineers, they are there. Capacity in terms of financial, the account is very good.
Paper, it looks good.
It looks good. So we are calling upon government agencies to do due diligence, especially, yes, I executed 3 contracts in the past as a contractor, but how did I deliver them? Maybe it was a struggle. So when you do a due diligence with those who had contracted this firm, then you can gauge the capacity, and you can disqualify actually a contractor at bidding who does not meet the due diligence criteria. Okay. Then generally funding is a problem. The budget has been an issue. An issue in terms of program activities, because we have to monitor the implementation of these agencies. Even I talked about subcontracting. On the paper, on the contract, this foreign company says I have contracted Turamye and Sons to execute Kapilipili Road. But on the ground is Turamye and Sons as a subcontractor whom we are interested in building capacity so that tomorrow they take over. On the ground,
it is quite different.
Yeah.
The only way you can find out is when you actually also have boots on ground to do continuous monitoring and evaluation of different government projects. Okay.
So that is an issue where we need to boost our budgets, and budgets have been dwindling.
Between you and me, the budget element is not about to adjust in favor of just the PPDA, because I know that's a concern that cuts across all MDAs. However, it doesn't negate the fact that there's a responsibility as an authority that must be achieved in light of all the present challenges, as you have mentioned them. Which then begs my next question. What are some of those strategies that then you've had to employ to be able to increase the involvement of local suppliers and contractors amidst the climate as it is, as you've mentioned it?
Now, there's a pattern. We are partnering with, for example, in ABSEC, that is all the contractors are supposed to be registered by UNAPSEC. Okay. And actually, they are coming up with a provision, I think, to ensure that you don't operate without being registered. Okay. So they are our close partners, so that even in trying to create awareness of these provisions, we are not alone. We may not reach everywhere. I am here on TV, but maybe not everybody is now watching TV. But if Engineer Muhewa, Elizabeth, is addressing our contractors, then he must talk about these provisions. We are partnering with Uganda Manufacturers Authorization, and they are really talking about these provisions in different fora. By the way, we have also provided for the youth.
Because that was going to be my next question. Like, as far as the census is concerned, it now shows a whole 50% of the population being young people who are very engaging and active, but they are usually left out of these processes. Again, no experience, you're not attached to a certain company, and therefore you fail to benefit from some of these local content schemes.
So we are, that is another area that we must focus, because as you rightly said, the base, when you look at the pyramid of the population, the base is worrying. If we don't talk about the youth, then some of us who are getting into the old age are going to be in trouble. Because one, they are educated, they have got basic education, but they don't have jobs. So how can't they get a share of the national cake or the national budget? And that is one of the areas. First of all, these contractors in Uganda, all contracts, they are thousands of contracts every year. And every contract above 5 billion. Whether it is foreigner, whether it is local, whether it is a resident, whether it is East Africa, and you are working with the government here, you must employ graduates, what we call graduate trainees. But here we really were talking about works contracts. And if we have 40 engineers on your project, we are saying employ 10 graduate trainees, a ratio of 1 to 4. And we believe these graduate trainees will be trained, but even tomorrow they can form their own companies. They become consultants, they become contractors themselves again after getting this experience. And
keep the chain moving. All right. Mr. Turamye, as time is first spent, in conclusion, we've had this discussion, you've talked about the guidelines, and now they're taking center stage, enabling you to actually now do local content schemes and make sure that so many Ugandans can be able, East African and other nationals that you did mention, be able to benefit from them. And so what is the expected future if this actually works out as it has been planned?
We believe it not even looking very far. Ugandan contractors should be able to compete with foreign contractors, because we are, as much as we are talking about reservation, we are not saying you, if you are a local contractor, don't compete for big contracts above 45 billion, for example. But what is your capacity? So we are building capacity so that they are able to compete with foreigners, and eventually this economy, we believe, will be controlled by us.
Okay. All right. Well, with your stewardship, we trust that all is going to be going well, and we wish you the very best, especially with the guideline implementation. Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority, the Executive Director, has been of kind words to be able to allude to us the implementation of the Guidelines 2024 towards local content schemes. Now, we also do have an observation on ground of how this has actually been panning out. Stephen Bide has been at various locations within the capital here, looking at the state of infrastructure, for example, road infrastructure, and how that is being worked on, especially with local content or suppliers for that matter, versus the foreign suppliers. Stephen Bide, good morning to you. What's the state of traffic and what's the state of road infrastructure where you are this morning? All right. He's going to be coming your way right after this break.